Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.
Good morning, Central Louisiana, and welcome to the UrbanCast Let's Talk Morning Edition. I'm your host this morning, Jack. Before we get started, we want to thank our silver sponsor, Acadian Ambulance, for their continued support of community conversations, just like what we're about to have. Today, we're joined by Chris Camp, candidate for mayor of Pineville. Before we go any further, I want to remind everyone watching and listening there are nearly 500,000 voters who have been moved to inactive status across the state of Louisiana. If you remain inactive, you could eventually be purged from the rolls. Take the moment and go check your voter registration status and stay engaged. Also, for those watching, drop your questions in the comments. We may bring your question into the conversation. And before we get started, Chris, I want to welcome you to the show. We'll start by giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the people of Pineville.
Thank you for having me this morning on here. It's great to be here. You guys do such great stuff. I'm Chris Camp. I'm running for mayor of Pineville. Never been a politician before. Don't ever really want to be a politician in reality. I just want to be a person who's a servant for the people of Pineville. I don't have a desire for power. I have a desire to help. I see a lot of opportunities in central Louisiana and Pineville specifically that I'd like to address, and I'd like to have a new set of eyes on it. So that's what I'm all about.
I hear you. I hear you. Chris, you've talked about your upbringing around small businesses. How does that shape your vision for Pineville's economy today and tomorrow?
Well, the reality is, I've heard it said over the past year that Pineville doesn't have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I think the reality is we have a lot of people who are struggling financially, and when you're struggling financially, you don't have the ability to be an entrepreneur. So we need to get back to the basics on that, get these people better jobs so they can start, having the disposable income and the ability to start businesses themselves. I'd love to see more small businesses grow. I watched my grandfather and my mom create their own business and thrive doing it. And I've owned my own business a couple times, and it's really rewarding to be able to do that yourself and to see the fruits of your labor come to fruition. And I think we need to get back to that as a community and really embrace that small business mindset and embrace the people who are trying their best to do it.
Oh, okay. All right. I read somewhere, Chris, you were planning to run for city council, if I'm not mistaken. And what changed your mind and made you decide to run for a mayor?
Well, so my neighbor, when I announced that I was going to run for city council, he met with me and he said, "Hey, I was going to run for city council as well." And I told him straight up, I said, "Man, I'm not going to run against you." I said, but I still want to serve. I want to serve the people. And I said, well, the original goal was to run for city council, do that for a couple years, and then try to run for mayor. But I
Mhm.
felt like this was a great opportunity to run for mayor, being that the current mayor was an appointed mayor and not an incumbent.
Mhm.
So I think it was a good opportunity for other people to step into that realm and try to challenge the status quo.
All right. You mentioned concerns about rising housing costs.
Mhm.
What specific policies would you pursue to address affordability in Pineville?
Well, there's a ton of things we could do. And there's a lot of other cities across the US have started doing it. Specifically in Houston, Texas, there's a lady there who has started taking infill lots and
Mhm.
building small cottage style homes on them and selling them for roughly $100,000. That's a great starter home for people, and it can be done. I've heard other people say you can't do that here. The costs are too high. But these small two-bedroom, one bath, affordable homes are something that is truly can be done. I mean, we've seen it done in other cities, and it can be done here. I've seen, in the national level, they're talking about doing 50-year mortgages and things like that. But the reality is that small single family home is the part we're missing in this area. And I mean, granted, we all want the big home, we want the big fancy home, but we need a starting point for our young people and for people who are just working class folks, you know?
Mhm. This is a question here, Chris, that we have for you. And we're going to try to ask this question to each one of the candidates who are vying for the mayor spot there in Pineville.
Hmm.
The sales tax revenue has generally increased over time,
Yes.
even with some short-term dips. I think if you look at the LSU study Q3, there was a slight decline, but minor in compared to some of
Yes.
the other municipalities. Q4, for some odd reason, it's that data hasn't been released by LSU. The question is, are residents actually feeling growth? And if elected, how would you ensure that revenue growth translate into improvements in people's daily lives? And I'm talking about the whole of Pineville.
Well, I mean that's a hard question because
Mhm.
we're in an inflation, like we have a inflation problem in the United States right now,
Uh-huh.
and so every time we're increasing taxes, the price of everything continues to rise to go with it. So you're seeing an increase in taxes, but you're not seeing an increase in productivity because we're just having to keep up with the status quo because of that. Um, we have to figure out ways to bring in more manufacturing into this area, and that will drive tax revenue. But we
Mhm.
also need to be more transparent on what we're spending our money on as a city as a whole. I mean, that's not just Pineville specific, that's nationwide. We need more transparency on where the money's going. You see all the time people vote down new taxes, and it's because they don't believe the money is going to go where it's saying it's going to go. We don't give enough information as a government to what we're really doing with that money. You see it in the federal level all the time, the $1 million hammers and things like that, that it's wasteful spending that I think the people are tired of. And I think that's the problem with our taxes right now. We're being taxed to death, but we're not seeing the results of those taxes enough.
Hmm. All right. And okay. I'm going to bring one question here from the audience there. It says, and I think you should be able to see it on your screen over there. How do you plan to continue building on Pineville's current growth and economic development? I guess that's a little bit more of a push into the whole concept that, when you compare Rapides Parish and all of the municipalities within Rapides Parish, Pineville's tax collection from a sales tax perspective have been consistently, on an increase as time go on. So,
Right.
mhm. So
So
we,
I
we
mean,
specifically those taxes.
yeah. The reality is Pineville is growing in that regard, in the regard of we're getting new businesses in and things like that. And that's great. That's good. We need more of that, and we need that to continue to happen. But for that to happen, we're going to need to develop ways to have more disposable income. The more disposable income our citizens have in Pineville, the more money they're going to have to spend on restaurants and different venues and different activities like that. But if you're struggling to pay your light bill and your house note and your utility bill, you don't have the extra money to spend on going out to dinner. So when a new business wants to come to town, they're looking at those numbers. They're looking at the median household income. They're looking at the average home price. And a lot of those chain restaurants that we want to come in are just going to say, no, we can't do it because the numbers don't line up. So we have to figure out a way to get those numbers up. We need to get those employee pay rate up. We need to get that, you know, income up, and we need to lower the housing cost. We need to figure out those two steps first, and that will help increase new businesses wanting to come to Central Louisiana, Pineville specifically.
Mhm. And at your current job, you are a quality assurance analyst, and that's that
That's what I do. Yeah.
person.
So
You deal with accountability on a day-to-day basis.
yeah, a lot of times it's doing the right thing, even when it's really hard to do the right thing. There's times where I have to tell the people who are in charge that are producing the product for us that, hey, look, this isn't a good product. You can't run this.
Mhm.
And I get pushback from that. But over the years, I've learned how to mitigate that by being always the same person with everyone I meet, so they understand that when I'm telling them something, I'm not just telling them because I think that's what I want to do, or my ego is getting in the way of that. It's that I'm telling you this because I want you to have a more successful time.
Mhm.
So that's what I do.
And so, how do you think that that mindset is going to apply to a big city, and and getting the mindset to bring that integrity into the equation, and sometimes have that tough statement, but say this is what we have to do to even move forward by
I,
leaps.
I think the reality of that is the more you're open and transparent and the more you're upfront and every day of the week being upfront with the people of Pineville, the more you can have those hard conversations, those times when hey, you're trying something and it doesn't work and it can't work. But if you're always open and honest with the people of Pineville, then you can come out there and say, look, we are trying this, but it's not going to work. And they're going to understand that. But also, with that being said, in my job, I do a lot of root cause analysis, and that's a fancy way of saying getting to the bottom of it.
Mhm.
And and I think we need more of that in our local government, getting to the bottom of the problem, getting to the root cause of why there's an issue. There's a pothole in the street. Well, we'll go put some asphalt in the hole, but we haven't figured out why that pothole's there, why the road keeps tearing up. We just keep putting asphalt in the hole instead of figuring out that there's probably a water leak under the ground that's causing the ground to be
Mhm.
bad, and that's making the potholes. So we need more of that in our government, I believe, getting to the bottom of the problem.
Ma- Man, it seems like you speaking my language right now. That's
Right.
the whole principle of Six Sigma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting to the root cause of the problem. It doesn't necessarily always. The problem is not what it necessarily look like sometimes.
That's right. A lot of times that's the case. We look at stuff like that and we see the surface level of it, but a lot of times there's a deeper issue that's there that we need to resolve first.
Hmm. CCS is a big concern and in the community. What's your position on it? That's a
Uh,
question
I
from the audience.
I am completely against carbon capture. I know some people might say that's unpopular, but I think the citizens of Central Louisiana, the citizens of Louisiana as a whole, are in a pretty good agreement on this, that it's not what we want. And my whole platform is based upon, is this going to improve the future of our children and grandchildren? And the reality is it's a short-term gain for right now, but we're leaving a long-term problem, I think, for the citizens of Pineville in the future. I didn't know anything about carbon capture before I decided to run, and it was an issue that kept being brought up to me as I was going around talking to people. And so I decided that because I don't know anything about it, I'm going to reach out to people who do know about it. And I searched online. I started meeting with different groups who are trying to oppose it. And after talking to all those people and doing my own research, I realized that this can't be good. We've seen what happened in Mississippi already, and how devastating that was, and how devastating it could have been. Those people in Mississippi actually got lucky, and it could be 10 times worse for us here, especially with the earthquakes we've been having in North Louisiana. It just doesn't seem safe. And it doesn't, I don't think Louisiana should be the dumping ground for the rest of the country and the world. And I really, as an American, don't believe in people seizing our property, and just taking our land without giving us a real good reason. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, cool. What does responsible growth look like for Pineville under your leadership?
Responsible growth under my leadership is, it really boils down to three questions. It is, is this going to put more money in the pocket of the citizens of Pineville? Is this going to enrich the lives of the people of Pineville? And is it going to build a better future for our children and grandchildren? If we can't answer those three questions, then we shouldn't do them. It's not responsible for our leadership to make decisions that benefit only a small group of people when there's so many people who are struggling and need to have a better system for them. So that's responsible growth in a nutshell. We need to have a committee designed specifically to bring more jobs into this area, more manufacturing jobs. I believe the more we've proven that we're good at manufacturing in this area. We need more of those manufacturing jobs brought in. That's going to raise the income for everybody around here because we have a smaller pool. So if there's more jobs to compete for that, it's going to raise the wages for everyone in the long run. And it's the developing of the single family home and the infill lots in Pineville are going to do those two things. And that's going to precipitate growth in the long run with our businesses. We're going to see more money in our pocket. We're going to see more tax revenues being brought in. And that's the easiest way to put it.
Okay. Many residents in central Louisiana feel disconnected from their local governments,
Right.
Pineville included in that matter. How do you improve communication and trust between City Hall and the people?
It goes back to the transparency thing. I think that social media is an incredible tool that we can use. I believe that if if we get on our social media platforms and really dial into that stuff, every week, every day of the week has a specific goal in mind. Say Mondays is to promote small businesses, and that entire day we're promoting a small business. That's 52 businesses we can promote in a year for free for those businesses to help them grow. We can do more community outreach things through social media. I believe we could have a mayor's talk every Tuesday, and then the Tuesday afternoons we have a city council meeting. We promote that. We live stream it on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all the platforms, including YouTube, and get that out there to the people. And every day the mayor is out in front being the face of our city, having the budget out in front of the city so they can see what it looks like and have it simplified where everybody can read it and understand what it is. If we do those things, then we can connect with our people. I post questions all the time on my social media asking people, what would you do if you were the mayor? Or what would you do if you were in charge of this? And you get almost instant feedback from those people. I do a live stream every other Sunday where I'm having people ask me questions on what we can do. And that's how we develop and grow and build a camaraderie between the citizens of Pineville and the leadership of Pineville. And that's what we have to do.
Okay. All right. Now this is you've submitted your resume to the people, and you're in the interview. You're in one of the interviews that you have before the election day right now. What is it? Is it one thing that you think that the current administration is getting wrong, can do better, that Chris can solve that particular problem?
And it's nothing against the current administration. I think they're doing a good job overall, but I think there's a lot of times where the current administration focuses on smaller select groups over the majority of the people of Pineville. And I think that's something we need to get away from. We need to get away from the small little special interest groups getting all the ear of the mayor and having the entire city being their voices being heard.
Okay. And if elected, what would be your first priority in the first 90 days or first 100 days?
The very first day I'm in office, the budget for the city will be posted on the doors of the building. I want everyone to see what their money is being spent on, because I don't think it's the city's money. I think it's the people's money, and they should be able to see what their money's spent on. That'll be posted to the door, and it'll be posted on the social media day one, and they'll be able to see exactly where their money's going. That is the number one first priority.
Okay. Here's another question right here. What do you think about a skate park? There are none in central Louisiana, and kids are told they can skate at Ward 9.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is actually kind of a funny story. In 2007, I uh I got a petition together with some other people, and we had 2,000 signatures on that petition to build a skate park in Pineville specifically. We even had funding from the Tony Hawk Foundation lined up to build it. And I was told that the city does not want this, and it's not something that they need in their city. I cannot believe, and I know it's not the people who are currently in there, but at that time it was something that blew my mind that, hey, you're going to get this for free. This is going to enrich the lives of our young people. And at that time we had tons of young people who were riding skateboards and things like that, and they were getting in trouble for riding around in the city, but we could have designed them a place that was safe for them to go. And the administration at that time didn't want it. Also, to piggyback off of that, I was trying to build a paintball field in central Louisiana, in Pineville specifically, and was told that the city council didn't want that. That wasn't what we wanted to represent for our city. And I don't understand those things. The more things you can do for young people that keeps them off the street and doing the wrong things is just good for the city as a whole. So that's something I would love to see happen. And there's money out there for it. Shreveport's done it. Lake Charles has done it. Other cities have done this, and it's worked really well for them. And there's tons of organizations who are willing to put up the money to do it.
I hear you. Before we wrap up, what do you want voters in Pineville to know about you as they make their way to a decision on who they're going to vote for?
The biggest thing is I want them to know that I am exactly who you see. There's never a hidden agenda with me. There's never like, what you see is what you get from me all the time. I don't ever want to be a politician. I don't ever want to come across as fake or disingenuous. I am exactly who you see every day. I'm kind, I'm caring and compassionate, and I have a love for Pineville and a love for Central Louisiana that I want to be infectious, and I want it to grow. I want other people to fall in love with Pineville just as much as I have, and other people who are working really hard to make the city better to do.
Mhm. All right, Chris, before we get out of here, I'm going to give you one last opportunity. If you didn't wrap it all up in your statement just then, if there's anything that you think that we needed to ask that you wished I would have asked and I didn't ask it, you have the opportunity to have the floor right now.
Okay. The only thing I can really say is I'm going to be out talking to people, going around, visiting some neighborhoods. And if you'd like me to come to your neighborhood, please message me on social media. You can follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all those different places. And you can see exactly what I'm about. You can go back through my old videos and see who I am as a person. And if you see me out and about on the streets with my Chris Camp for Mayor shirt on, man, come over and visit with me. I'd love to talk to you. So that's all I really got. I'd like to talk about a little bit about the fire department, how I really want to take care of those guys. With the passing of my friend Josh a while back, that was one of the issues we had talked about before he passed, because he was one of the first people I called when I was going to run for office. And he said that we need to really take care of the fire department. I'd like to really take care of the fire department, police department, and all the city workers as a whole. Those guys are doing a great job, and we want to take care of them and do more for them.
Well, Chris, we definitely want to thank you for joining us today and speaking directly to the people of Pineville. And again, as a reminder, 500,000, nearly 500,000 voters have been moved from the inactive status in Louisiana. If you don't check your status, you could eventually be removed from the rolls. Make sure you guys get out there and go check. You can go out to www.govote.com, and it's going to ask you for your name, your last four of your driver's license, or something to that effect. But you can check and see if you are inactive or not. And if you are, just give a call to the folk down at the Registrar of Voters office, and they'll get you taken care of. We also want to say a special thank you to our silver sponsor, Acadian Ambulance, and a special thank you to our other business partners, Sattler's Towing, Long's Product, Nader International Market, the Threadhead Embroidery, Elegance Beauty Supply, and O'Mel's Farm. I'm Jack. This is UrbanCast. Guys, stay informed and stay engaged. Chris, if you could just hang tight, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. And thank you.
You guys.
All right.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.